policies and procedures in order for it to meet that definition of a contract.
So then Mark is saying that whatever we grant out again, that would have to be spent by the end of this year.
I mean, for it to be considered, for it to be safe, I think I'm just not comfortable, you know, doing. It just depends on what it is. I just don't want to get us stuck to where we have something obligated and then it can't be spent for whatever reason. Well, we can't go back and re-obligate those funds somewhere else after that December 31st of 24 deadline.
So Commissioner Schutte, maybe I could, did that answer your question, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's, so it does. I mean, I get that, because I don't want to see us lose any money that we have available this year, for sure. I just, I mean, you are cutting off 2 years of potential work from people. That's a big hedge. And so I just want to be clear about that. You know, there might be good things that, you know, I mean, if we're looking at, like, we just agreed to extend the community or the youth connection beyond 2024. Obviously we have a high level of trust in them to get their projects done, but you know, that is that's the cost associated with this decision, is that you lose potential of 2 years worth of opportunity to do work and potentially good projects in order to get everything completed by the end of this year.
Yep, and the risk on the other side is if they're unable to complete the project in 25-26, we have to return those funds to the feds.
Correct. I get that part for sure. I just also think that, just for the sake of conversation, I mean, we really haven't had anybody not complete their projects yet. I mean, this is all sort of anticipatory on our part. But there's a lot of yeses under the project complete column there. So if nothing else, thanks to everybody for, you know, pretty much getting your stuff done. But just part of the conversation, I guess.
Sharon, do you have anything you want to ask her?
Yeah. So I think one thing that we need to remember too, and we want to remind people that how we do have contracts with, is if they're not finished by 2026, they lose that money as well. So it's not just the county that loses the money, but so do those that have requested the money. So making sure that they understand that, you know, if their project isn't complete by 2026, then that's on them. The county can't help them any further. So I just want to make sure that we know that. And then also on the legislative priority list, there were two items that did not get funded. It was North Bay Case Inlet utility relocation and the North Bay Case Inlet process controls update. Do we know how much the request was for those? And are those things that we might want to add to the list of things that are already on the previous list, not the most recent list, but the previous list?
I see Loretta on here. Do you know that off the top of your head?
I know, commissioners, that we budgeted $250,000 in the North Bay utility budget for the relocation. And based on what we're seeing, we don't expect the project to be $250,000, but that's what's currently budgeted. And let's see, the DO probes, I'm not sure if Richard's on here. I want to say that was a much smaller dollar amount.
So both of those items are already budgeted for, so we don't need to take those into consideration for the rest of the ARPA list.
Well, they're in our budget, but if we could have ARPA funds, absolutely, that would be fantastic rather than coming out of utility rates.
Right.
Yeah.
And that would be a really good example of something that we could choose to move 250,000 of ARPA funds, whether it be from this pot or this pot, the 600,000 or the, roughly 750,000. We could move that 250,000 into, put it under the category of revenue loss, and then expend the law enforcement salaries, since that's a low-hanging fruit, right? That's not generally funded with other grant funds. It's a large dollar amount. We can expend that there, and then turn around and use general fund dollars to fund that 250,000 into North Bay.
Just for the record, I'm not a fan of touching the sheriff's budget in between the year. I understand what you're saying, and it's a smart way to look at it. I'm just not very comfortable with that. I also want to point out is, we still need to have some type of fail-safe to fall upon come the end of October, beginning of November, where we close some of these things out. That's not going to happen, but that we have a list of ongoing projects that we could slide in that are internal. That's one of the things that I've been saying from the beginning, just so that we don't lose any of those dollars. It just wouldn't make sense. If we weren't prepared for that, then we stand the chance of losing. Loretta, I see that your hand is up. Go ahead.
Thank you, commissioners. If I might add also, the contract, we've already entered into a contract occurred, and then also to have DOT include that in the construction documents. So I believe that is out to bid right now. So there's, that's a really easy one in terms of meeting the obligation requirements.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, DOT is not paying for it. That's coming out of the county.
That is correct. Yes, we've entered into an interagency agreement with DOT. But yes, we are responsible for paying for that relocation.
So commissioners, do you have any other questions for Jennifer on the ARPA funds?
Requested $50,000 for washers and dryers, and I think some electrical and plumbing. Mason County Cemetery District Number 1, Twin Firs has requested $28,485 for cemetery expansion. And Hood Canal Communications has requested the remaining funds from their arrearage project to be applied to the Elden Fiber project. And that was $22,739. And then one request that's not in your packet that came in afterwards, after the briefings were due last Wednesday, was $74,000 for a study to be performed by Washington State University. So those total requests are $375,224. Plus we have the requests from the second round of ARPA funding. Some of those projects have been funded by other funds since that time. But that might be worth re-looking at some of those projects. And then these new ones, I need to know if you want to go out to the community for new projects, or if you just want to fund internal projects. So that's what I need to know.
I would love to see us go out for smaller projects. It's a small amount of money with a maximum ask of maybe, 50 or 100K, and see how much we can use up. I have no problem with the 74,000 if we chose to go with figuring out what the new rates are. I'm still trying to figure out the full benefit of that and if it's worth it compared to spending that's 74,000. But I see where they're going with it, and there's a few entities that would be able to raise their rates if their rents if we did it. I'm not sure about the 200,000 because I'm not sure what's happening with that organization right now. I'd like to get more input on that. But that's where I'm at. I'd love to see us go back out for smaller projects, take care of a few of these if that's what we choose.
So I think kind of where I'm falling on things with this is I think we should do another brief solicitation, including reaching out to the people who have submitted these sort of additional requests, just to check for accuracy and everything being still current. I know the HCC request goes back about 1.5 years or so now. So I think it would be good to do just a quick solicitation over the next, maybe come back by the end of April with updated requests. I don't mind putting a cap maybe on new requests in terms of funding amount. I'd like to maybe see that before it goes out. And then I think that the other request that came to us that Commissioner Netherland just mentioned with the vouchers, I think there's also some conversation that probably needs to happen with Bremerton Housing Authority, since they hold the vouchers, to see what they could contribute to this. They would be a direct beneficiary of this, and they have not really been a part of the conversation, at least with us. And so I'm not sure that I'm ready to commit $74,000 to the study without at least checking that box. So I think there's some more work that needs to be done on that in terms of cost sharing and actual need to do this and process and all that kind of stuff. I completely get where the other nonprofits are coming from on the requests. And if it is something that needs to be updated, then we should look at partnering to do that. But I don't think we can do that without having some input from Bremerton Housing Authority to us. So yeah, I mean, I think there's, and I think if we gave ourselves a couple of weeks of solicitation, that might clear up some of the additional projects internally that are, get some clarity on when those might be closed out. I think as the world sits today, I don't have a problem necessarily converting or switching the $755,000 over to the general fund, and then looking at reallocating the $604,000 out to projects. But I think it would be good to get some more information from potential project sponsors about what they might be able to do, and then we just run that process again.
Sharon, would you agree with that? I pretty much agree with everything he just said there. Do you have any heartburn with any of that?
No, I don't. I'd like to just add maybe, I know some of these we've already donated in the past, those that, and we could potentially maybe help them.
Can you do that, Jennifer, during the re-ask process, or is that something you just provide on your own as well on the side? Because I'd like to see that too.
I think we can just do that on the side. I think it would be more accurate, probably coming from us rather than relying on the entities to tell us how much we've donated to them.
Exactly.
So yeah, we'll get that together for you. See how much we've donated in the past to the applicants that come in. So you want to do 2 weeks of solicitation,
Yes,
directly online. Then we'll come back to you April 1st. So
we'll ask you to repencil and bring any of the regular funds that would not be internal over as well that you think. I'd love to have a roll up of that.
So I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Yeah, because for example, the 425 on the fiber optic upgrade, that's not an internal one. That 80,000 can go over to the green line. I'd like to see a roll up of the ones that are not internal, so we could choose to put them over in the green line if we choose.
Actually, I think the fiber optic one is internal. That's all of our fiber on our campus.
That's on our campus.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one that we're doing through.
But it's going to be left over though.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
and we don't know
Right,
exactly how much that will be. I mean, 80,000 is just a rough guess
Yeah.
at this point. So,
But again, that would be a leftover, so that's something that can come in. It's not a reallocation internally to where we're going to have to pay for it from somewhere else in the general fund.
we're paying that to I believe it's Hood Canal Communications through IT. So it's a little bit of a complicated project. I'll see if I can get some more details on that.
Thank you, because if we can move that over to the green, that 80,000, that'd be, a realistic number to look at.
So the fiber optic infrastructure upgrade is actually taking our server room out of the basement of the juvenile probation facility and moving it over to building 10. So.
But it's an $80,000 charge that would not have to come back into our internal. That's the.
Correct. So we can, yeah, we can figure out exactly how much is left over. I don't know if I could maybe scratch your memory a little bit. When we went out for bid for that, there was a conservative polls. And so there was a contingency built into that 425,000. We were not required to change out utility poles or at least as many as that they originally thought we might have to. They were able to go underground for the majority of it. So we will have some left there, and I can work with TJ to figure out what that is, because I do think that project is just about wrapped up and done.
Yeah, thank you. All right, anything else, commissioners, to clarify for her?
I have a question for the commissioners.
Yeah.
When we do this solicitation, do you want any timelines associated with when this money will be spent on them?
I think it has to have the same timelines we've already given them, wouldn't it?
Do we want to say that it's just needs to be obligated by the end of 2024?
I think there's a way that you could word that asks, can you complete this project by the end of 2024? Yes or no? If it's obligated by the end of 2024, how long do you think it would take you to complete that? And I think that's a way that we could, we could use that information to evaluate the responses that we get. So, I mean, we may ultimately prioritize things that could get done in the next 6 months, which would make a lot of sense if there are projects that can be done in the next 6 to 8 months. You know what I mean?
I'd like to consider that when I'm making my decision.
Yep. So I will work with Jen to get some language in there that basically defines obligate for, just some verification that it could be spent by the end of 26.
I'd like to see if with that at the end of 25, because why wait? But either way, comfortable. So anything else on that, guys?
No, appreciate all the work on this. This is a massive thing to try to manage, and a lot of different partners. So you guys have been doing a great job. So I really appreciate that.
But she'll be happy when that's off her plate.
Yeah, and I just have a couple of clarifying questions as well. So are you all in agreement on, you want to ask for projects between 50 to 100,000, or do you want to not put a?
I'd like to see under an amount under, for example, we'll say 75,000.
So if you went from 50 to 75.
No, anything under. So if they came in at 20. So with a maximum ask of maybe 75. That'll allow us to help many smaller entities that we could maybe do something with early.
Yeah, I mean, it just creates more projects to manage. So, I mean, which is fine. It's just, to me, that opens up more chances of projects that may or may not get done. So just to
that in mind, and something that will turn over quickly.
Okay, and I mean, we do have
that was just me speaking though. Commissioner Schutte, Commissioner Trask, where are you on the numbers?
Well, I see one on our old list that was for the Eels Hill tipping floor for 75,000. To me, that's something that's important. It'll help not only us, but our constituents, and also our public works department. So I think that if you do the 75,000, there are smaller projects that we could probably help move forward.
Okay. So you'd be comfortable at a mark of 75?
Yeah, that would work.
Okay, Commissioner Schutte.
Yeah, I can go along with that. It's fine.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Does that answer your question, Jennifer?
Yes, that does.
Did you have another one for us?
So we'll hold off then on the orangish yellow projects, moving those over into the general fund at this point in time. Is that
Well, hopefully you'll have a list for us to look at where we're gonna exchange things.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Yes, that clarifies for me, so we can move on to the next briefing item unless there's anything else on that.
Nope, I think it's my favorite part that you're coming up on. It used to be the scariest part. Now I actually look forward to it, Jennifer.
Oh, good. Okay, so
Well,
the
if it's the one.
February financials, and
Yep.
I am a little bit late with it being April 1st, so apologies for that. So February financials, beginning on page 2 of your packet, the general fund revenue through February, we've received $6,162,228 compared to last year $5,917,049. We have received 14% of our budgeted revenue in the general fund through February compared to last year was also 14%. So looking very consistent there. Moving on to the treasurer's revenue detail. In the treasurer's office, we received $3,337,596 compared to last year in February, $2,975,101. We're at 11% of our budgeted revenue received in the treasurer's office this year compared to 10% last year. Moving on to the expenditures, we have expended in the general fund through February $7,934,137. Last year at this time, $7,367,903. We're at 15% of our total expenditures this year in the general fund compared to 16% last year. In the non-departmental, we're up this year about $347,000 compared to last year what we had expended, and that's due to making our IT payment. We made it a little bit earlier than we did last year, so that's the reason for the increase in expenses there. Just a timing issue, or not really an issue, a timing thing. Moving on to the special fund 6-year recap. Our community development revenues are up we've received about $545,000. Our property taxes are up, and that's due to, I think they got the property tax statements out a little bit earlier than last year, so payments started coming in earlier. The sales tax is up a little bit over last year, so that's good. The homelessness prevention filings are actually up a little bit compared to last year at this time, so that's a good sign. The lodging tax is up compared to the previous 5 years, and the REIT has actually come up a little bit compared to where it was last year. So overall, things look good to me. Go ahead and stop me if you have any questions at any time or comments. The sales tax, we received $830,000 in February, which was a huge increase over last year. We received about close to $69,000 more in February than at this point last year. So that's a big change from the last few months. We had seen a decline over the previous 4 months, so that's a good sign.
That made up for January's.
Yeah, definitely. So not sure what was going on there.
I don't know.
And looking forward into March, we received a little bit more in March as well. So hopefully that's a trend that will continue. We are projected to receive over 9.5 million by the end of the year. So we budgeted 9.2, so that's good. Oh, yeah, 9.2. Compared to last year, in 23, we had budgeted 8.4. So the 9.2 is a little more realistic. For our 6-year financial recap, we have about 25,826,000 in the bank at the end of February, and I updated our reserves here. So we have at the end of February about 6.6 million in unreserved cash. For our revenue recap, we've received about 14% of our budgeted revenue, and that's consistent with the previous year and up a little bit over the previous 4 years before that. For our expenditures, again, we've expended about 15% of our budget, and that's very consistent with the previous 5 years. For our special fund cash balances, we have a total of about 61 million, and that's up quite a bit over the previous 5 years. So most funds are
Go back up to there you go. Stop right there for a minute, please. And there goes to okay. So there's a big chunk of it right there.
in roads.
Yep. Well, as I knew it was going, commissioners, at the end of this year, during this year, I really think we need to look at moving some of that over to the new Roads for Economic Development Fund. We haven't done it in a few years, and looks like it's getting ripe to do it again. Just something to consider. Go ahead, Jennifer. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's something I should probably show in here as well, is the fund balances, because I forget what that amount was, about 4 million, I think, in that reserve. So of course, the more we put into that reserve, the more they're going to keep in there.
Yeah.
Take a look at Belfair Water Waste Reclamation Facility cash balance.
Yeah, I think that's due to their grant that they have. I'm not sure if they got in advance or what, but yeah, that's very uncharacteristic of Belfair.
And also quite a bit of those homes are being developed pretty quickly up there, so they're purchasing connection fees.
The motor pool summary, we have about 1.935 million budgeted in motor pool, and we've expended about 10.93% through February.
And last year we were at 14.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it I think is timing. Like, we haven't expended any capital. We've had no new vehicles come in, so that's a huge part of the difference there.
And that's going to happen every few years or so as we are in that in-between times from starting fresh.
Yeah, I mean, we just had such a problem getting vehicles for a while, and I think that's starting to change. So hopefully that'll be more consistent moving forward.
Yeah.
For the special funds revenue, we have received this year in February through February about 12.5 million, compared to last year we had received about 7.8 million. We're at 20% of our budgeted revenue, compared to last year we were at 13%.
But a big chunk of that is that sewer. We need to find out if that's grant money in or what that is. Loretta's on here. Loretta, do you know? Well, maybe she's not actually on. Go ahead, continue.
Okay, I'll make a note to ask her.
I'm sorry, commissioners, I was over with Mike. What was the question about the sewer?
The Belfair reclamation, we have quite a bit of money that's in there right now. We're looking at some of the different stuff. What the big dollars that we're seeing, how much of that, if any, is the grant monies or anything?
Let's see. As far as, I'm sorry, we're looking at what the balances are or what's been
Yeah,
expended?
Jennifer, can you go up one more back to the other for the,
For the cash balance.
yeah.
Yeah, so the ending cash balance in February for Belfair is 6.384 million. And so we're just wondering if that was like grant money that was received, you know, in advance of expenditures, or if it was connection fees that are being reserved.
And if you don't know, that's all right. We'll put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one.
That's fine. Thank
Yep.
you.
Apologize.
Okay, so on the revenue, is there any other questions before we move on to the expenditures?
Not for me.
Okay, so the expenditures for the special funds, so we've expended 9,750,000 roughly this year compared to last year, about 7.5 million. And we're at 15% of our budgeted expenditures this year compared to 10% last year. And looking at Belfair, yeah, we've only expended 539,000 through February, compared to last year at this time 726,000 in Belfair. So anyway, any other questions or comments on any of this?
Just real quick on the Treasurer's Department receipts. One thing I think I'd like us to keep an eye on is the DNR and the PILT monies coming in. Other counties are having issues with that as well. So let's just keep an eye on that one.
Where are we at on that, Jennifer? That's a good question. Although the bottom line looks good, are we?
Also, Commissioner Trask, when you say other counties are having issues with that, do you mean in terms of revenue decline or actually receiving payments from the DNR on that?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're seeing interest groups halting timber sales and things like that. So that's affecting that as well. So we just want to keep an eye on that to make sure that the counties are getting what they were promised. It's another adventure.
Yep. Okay, Jennifer, what else you got?
Well, the last sheet that wasn't included in your packet, I have the county debt. I did add the approximate interest rates in here, so we'll make sure and include this as part of the packet.
Well, I was gonna say, that's nice to see once in a while.
Yeah. And we do have, I added in the debt capacity in here, which is configured every time we go out and ask for new debt. So this number is from the treasurer's packet, from the financial committee or finance committee. So anyway, our remaining debt at the end of February is 16,550,000 roughly. So, we'll continue to make this available each month.
And when you get a chance, the North Bay Case Inlet 3.5 balance of 3.6 million. If you wouldn't mind throwing us out sometime what we're paying yearly on interest on that would be appreciated.
Yeah, this one, I think I had to, I mean, it's approximately 3.5%. It's not consistent, you know, it's not like a home loan or something where
Yeah.
the same amount of interest every month that for every year. So yeah, it's, I think it's only 3.5. I can relook at that. But...
So Jennifer, I really appreciate you putting this together. So we're using like less than 10% of our total debt capacity. Is that about right?
Yes, that is correct. We do have, I think, a fairly low debt ratio.
For to just kind of tweak this for next time, if maybe you could add a column next to maturity year, just if there's a prepayment penalty.
I don't think any of our loans have prepayment penalties,
Oh, okay,
but I'll double check with the treasurer on that.
gotcha. Thank you. This is great.
You're welcome. I'm glad it's helpful.
Look how those interest rates have changed over the years. The 2021 bonds at under 2%. Some of them just right around 1%.
Yeah. Well, we want the banks were smart.
The good old days of very favorable interest rates.
Yes, we definitely timed the refinancing just right, I think. So good job to everybody on that one. So the next thing that I have, or the last thing that I have, is the closeout of the CDBG CV1 grant, and this is it was for coronavirus funds through Commerce. So we just need to set the hearing to close out this grant. This is not a recurring grant. Are there any questions on this?
Do we know if have they expended all of the funds, or is this reimbursement?
Yes, they did expend all of the funds. We did have about 16,000 left, I believe, in administrative funds that did not get expended, but that yeah, the full amount that was obligated for low income rent, I believe it was about 1,061,000 or 62,000, and that all did get expended. Yes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Okay. All right. What else we got going?
That's all we got for you for our support services.
Okay, Kevin, you're up.
Do we want to hold those to the end and let everybody else off?
We can do either way, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, they're not super pressing, so well, you know what I mean. We can hold those to the end and go through the
Okay.
other.
Sounds like a winner. So let's go ahead and move forward. Dave Windom. We're running pretty late today, but that was some pretty important stuff we had. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it was interesting stuff too. I'll glue to my screen. Hey, so what we have today is Ian with the appointments.
Morning, commissioners.
Morning, Ian.
We have at our last Board of Health meeting, which was last week, we had one reappointment to the On-Site Sewage Advisory Committee. James Medcalf is a designer, and he's been with the committee since 2019, its reformation. And then another member was appointed, Art Whitson. Art Whitson is also he's a citizen member, and he's also a member of our Clean Water District Advisory Committee.
You need anything from us on that, or is that just to let us know?
Just information only.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Did those need to be added to the agenda so that we can approve them?
No, the Board of Health officially approves them. So this is just for the record.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
What else you got, Dave?
That is it, unless you have questions for me.
I got one. So Dave, I'm not sure how to do this or what we need to do, but for years we go back and forth with trying to figure out when you have 7 trailers sitting on a property and everything's going to heck out there. We have to come up with something. We have to do some type of enforcement. It's getting so bad out there that not just the fear of these people. Maybe we need to do a drive around with you and your staff like we would with the sheriff's department, but we need to find a way to really come down on some of this. We got vehicles by the yin yang being pulled into places, torn apart and stuff on the ground. We have to find a way to stop it. But I guess I'm asking for you for recommendations because it's getting pretty bad.
Okay, well, let's do our, like you say, let's do a drive around.
Okay.
Why don't you and I go ahead and coordinate that, and you can show me the things that you have the most concerns about, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I had on that one. Anybody else?
Yeah, I guess maybe to similar thing to tie on to that. So a couple of weeks ago, we got an email from KMAS about camping issues around their infrastructure, and so I wanted to check back in on that. Dave, I think you had mentioned that you might be talking to the sheriff about it, or
Right.
and I think what I had talked to Mark and John Taylor about was, looking at that process to declare that critical infrastructure, so that there could be some boundaries put up there for those types of things, to make it easier to move people along that are camping along those lines. And I know Commissioner Trask had been trying to get in touch with the Navy about the rail line area. I think that obviously would probably already checks the critical infrastructure box. And so just kind of want to get a sense of where we might be with some of those areas, and what we might be able to do to help facilitate a cleanup and clean out type.
So Wendy's been up there and has coordinated with Mankey. So Mankey's moving ahead on cleanup and some of the other issues we've been talking about. The other owner has been contacted, and one of the problems we have is that on cleanups like this, it's the owner that winds up getting kind of stuck with the cleanup piece. We can't go after the people. It's the owner that winds up, and so we're working through that process with the owner of that property right now.
So I might want us to have a conversation about what we can do in that situation, because if we look at I know that it's in certain parts somewhat controversial, but the state's right-of-way program, where they're coming in and removing these types of encampments along critical infrastructure. That's why I want to head down that path.
Yeah.
As part of the conversation. And I would be open to a conversation about us utilizing some resources of our own to help further that, just given the nature of the places that these encampments are happening in the area of, naval railroad line, or radio infrastructure, where we rely on that at MaceCom, or have a partnership with the broadcaster for emergency broadcasting and things like that. I think those are opportunities for us to be involved, and not just have the landowner try to figure it out on their own, but for us to actually engage in that. And then obviously the other side of that is partnering with our housing providers and groups like the host team from the BHO, to help those people that want the assistance, alternatives. But so comprehensive strategy, but I think our foot in the door is that critical infrastructure component.
Okay.
And I don't know if the commission has any thoughts or contributions.
Well, yeah, I'm actually with you on this one. We have those dollars that we were talking about, we're looking at doing for other properties. Maybe if it's internal, we find a way to make it for our internal process, we can use some of those dollars that way as well, and just do it.
Yeah, I'm also wondering if there's any grants out there, because I know the one up by the railroad, if you look at the water, and what they use the water for, there's got to be an environmental piece. There's got to be some grants out there that can help with that cleanup as well, I would think. And then Commissioner Schutte, thank you for bringing up the railroad and me reaching out. I've heard nothing yet, so I'm going to probably contact some other people as well to see if I can get some movement somewhere.
I did as well.
Think that we move slow. Let's talk federal, shall we?
I did as well, Commissioner, and Derek and his crew is supposed to get back to me here with somebody directly. So
Okay.
hopefully
If you could share that, if you could share that contact with me, I've got some amazing.
As soon as I get it,
pictures, man.
I'll say as soon as I get it, I'm giving you the sword to start going at it.
I'll
Get down
take
your
it.
bad self.
I'll take it.
All right. Anything else for Dave? Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Yep.
Next up, we have Public Works, Loretta.
Right. Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
Quickie follow-up, if I may, on the question about the North Bay. Commissioner Netherland, you were wondering how much we're paying altogether. So roughly 272,000 plus, and around 66,200 of that is interest each year.
Okay. That's good to
And
keep in mind as we're going through and looking at things that we pay off and do. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
What else you got?
And then Commissioner Trask, just a quickie thank you on the ARPA funds and keeping in mind the solid waste facility and the tipping floor deck. That we've actually, hats off to Richard and Kevin and Dave Smith in refining that. Our estimate now is probably about double the 75,000, just looking at logistics of closing the floor, cure time, separating work zones and customer service, all those fun things. So we've been actively working on that design and can get some updated numbers for commissioners for consideration.
Do we need to change our limit from 75 to 150 now?
Yes, please.
We could do 75 for department. And then maybe, because I think that this is important.
Yeah.
Well, that may come under
Absolutely.
the internal allocation shift that we're talking to.
Yeah, it's got to happen one way or the other. We need to take care of business out there this year, and it's budgeted. So, and then also North Bay, we did already sign an agreement with David Evans and Associates, and they've completed the design work to the tune of around 40,000. And then we also executed an agreement with the Department of Transportation for around 81,000 to actually pay for the relocation of the North Bay sewer during construction of the fish barrier project. And we will have some additional costs too in terms of our labor and materials for our responsibilities as part of that project.
And Loretta, could you let me know how many of these projects are, how do I want to put this delicately? I'm not going to. How many of them are designed larger than the fish that swim through them?
I'm sorry, didn't mean to laugh. We have orca-sized ones.
We do. We
I know.
absolutely do. We have some
do.
that are larger than an orca.
Commissioner Trask, one of my favorites is when we did Effendall Pass and created that bridge type thing, and down closer to the water, we had a 3-foot culvert. So you had to be pretty skinny. You had to get fat between that 3-foot culvert and the oversized thing we built out there. It's not quite a bridge, but it's big enough.
Right. I think it's just important that we keep track of those, so that way we can share those with the other counties and maybe also with our legislators, just to let them know the it's like the cost of a toilet seat, right? That was a joke way back that said that, the federal government look at the cost of a toilet seat. Well, look at the cost of the repairs or the fish passage, the culverts that we're having to do. How much of that is excessive? And could that money have been spent better downsizing and then using that money elsewhere?
Yeah, when I was on the Hood Canal Coordinating Council and the Alliance of Healthy South Sound, we talked about ways to work with the tribes, because part of it was the tribes had expectations. We talked about working with the tribes to come up with a plan to where we can go with smaller, because once it becomes so big, the cost is exponential compared to some of these other things we bring in. To have an agreement where we can maybe do a couple more that aren't as big, but cover the whole stream down, but that was going to take the tribes and stuff. But that I've been out of the Hood Canal Coordinating Council and stuff for a long time, so I don't know whatever came of that, if anything.
So I think we have a new executive director there now, and I think there's some interest and excitement about looking at the culvert replacement program as a whole. So I'm optimistic that there might be some progress on that side of it. We talked earlier today about the utility relocation component of it, and Mike had sent over his list of culverts in the county, and I think the total number is somewhere around 3,500 culverts in the county, and of that, just about 300 are under the injunction, if I remember correctly. So this is an issue that's not going away. You could dedicate every dollar to culvert replacement and still have quite a bit to go long after that money runs out.
Absolutely. And commissioners, we'd be happy to have a work session just exactly on this topic.
I actually think that'd be a good idea, just to kind of reframe everything for us and have a, you know, what we're looking at, what the liability looks like to the county,
Yes.
how we fund them, how we design them, how we can appeal the design when they reject what Mike suggests.
Say that last one more time. It needs to be said over and over and over again, because that's the reality.
Yeah, so I think just a good opportunity to have some strategy put around it.
Yeah.
Perfect. We would love to do that. And commissioners, it sounds like you certainly have a healthy appreciation of the issues. So it would be great to be on the same page about strategy moving forward.
What else you got, Loretta?
Okay, well, some fun things. We're excited about road standard update. Yes, Mike?
So Public Works been working on a road, developing a road standard manual for quite some time. We finally have got it taken care of, and thanks to David and Kelly. These standards are basically to govern the design and construction of both public and private roads, including bridges. I can go on and on and on, but in any case, to adopt these road standards, there'll have to be some modifications to the Mason County Code for Chapter 10, 12, and 14. What we're requesting the board is to set a public hearing for public input of May the 7th, 2024, to look at adopting the road standards. It'll be a first time ever.
Okay.
Sounds incredibly exciting. I say let's set it.
Commissioners, I'd like to thank Randy Collins and Kel and her team. So we also did some pretty good internal review and comments to make sure that our codes were consistent with the fire marshal code. And I'm sure we'll have some follow-up just in rolling out and implementing with community development, but appreciate the teamwork from the other departments as well.
What else you got for us, Loretta?
Next up is the continuing saga of updating our interlocal agreements. And so we have some additional agreements that we're asking commissioners to put on the agenda and execute.
I'm supportive, commissioners.
I'm as well.
Okay, thank you. And then we have a consultant agreement with KPFF for the Harstein Island Bridge.
Yeah, KPFF is our consultant for Harstein Island Bridge. The contract is up. We would like to extend it for to the end of this year. There's only a little bit of work to be left to be done, but we'd like to update the agreement to be able to pay them.
I'm okay with that. Everybody?
Quickie, sorry, clarification, Mike. This is an extension as opposed to a new contract?
Well, the contract actually was up in 2023 December, and so this would be a new contract technically.
Oh.
Yes.
But basically it's because we didn't extend it.
So it's kind of an extension, kind of a, okay, but I'm still okay with it, commissioners. Anything?
Yeah, it should have been done, but we found some issues with the surfacing, and so we have to extend them to, you know, to help figure out and finish up the project. So
All right, what else you got, Loretta?
That is it, commissioners.
Okay, does anybody have anything for Loretta?
Yeah, just a quick question. I'm thinking this might be appropriate for you, and if it isn't, just tell me it
Okay.
isn't. Figure it out. But so I've gotten a few emails over the past couple of weeks about Verizon putting in cell towers. I think it's over in North Shore, Commissioner, and you might
Yes.
be familiar
Yes.
with it as well. Any information on that? I try to kind of read through some of the emails, and I think people are opposed to them putting a cell tower over there, but I'm not 100% sure. And I personally don't, as somebody who has Verizon and struggles with reception,
Mhm.
I do have that personal bias with it. I don't know much about it though, and just wanted to kind of get some information from the group.
I
Yes.
actually am
Oh.
up on it. Do you want to cover it, Loretta? But I'm up on it completely.
No. I think
Okay.
that Cal and perhaps others are more on the.
So
On radar.
right now, they're in a discussion with Verizon and a property owner to place one out by Katy Creek, down the North Shore of the Hood Canal. But it's not that far away. It is if they do it, it is a imitation looking tree type thing that they're putting up there to bring forward the service. Some of the locals, of course, do not like it. A few of them are actually concerned about health. I've been trying to read some of the things on it, and there's some that say that there's some that say they're crazy for saying there is. So it's kind of one of those hard ones to go back and forth with. But and last time I talked to Kel, it is something that's not actually in our hands. There's a process that they go through, and after they're done with the process, it'll go to the hearings examiner, and the hearings examiner before ever allowing for any type of construction. That's what I understand. I haven't heard anything that's changed that in the last month and a half.
Yeah, that's good to know. I mean, I didn't know if this was planning to go on property that we owned out there. I know years ago Verizon had reached out to us about putting a tower at Public Works. So I just didn't really know what the details were. I'm happy to hear it goes through the hearings examiner. I think that makes some sense, and happy to let that process play itself out and not try to bias it in any way.
That definitely took a lot of the weight off of my mind as well, because there's a whole list of things they have to do and look at. It can be only so far, although they're looking at being by Katy Creek, it has to be such and such distance away from it, and that changes things a lot. But we'll see what they say, and they're the ones that are going to make the determinations of health more than I could, because like I said, I tried to read it, but there's 6 of one, half a dozen on the other side. It's and whose truth is truth? I don't know. Anything else for Loretta? Okay, Loretta, I have a small list. Apologize. First things first.
All right.
The light at Victor Road. What is the update on that?
I'll need to check with Dave.
Okay.
I can follow up on that. We have dealt with the work with the PUD, and they are moving forward on that.
Okay, I'd sure love to get an update. There's a few other things. I'd love to sit down with you again and see where you're at on the RID. Just so we can get a new update on it. Where are we at on the vouchers? The trash vouchers, Loretta?
I know that was in Mason County Garbage's hands, I believe. So
Okay.
just getting details on the voucher look, the numbers, getting them printed, all those good things.
Well, I appreciate that. The sooner you can give me that, the more quicker I can get it out there to those folks that were doing it. Highway 3, I know that's not our place, but out on Highway 3, I have people that were contacting me regarding where the Woodshed Tavern is. The light on the going towards Bremerton, the light before the Woodshed Tavern is no longer working. The light past the Woodshed Tavern is no longer working, and the light across the street is no longer working. So for some reason, we have 3 of them right there in the middle of Belfair that is not. So if you can reach out to the PUD or the state, whoever we can.
Okay, so the overhead illumination.
Yes.
Okay.
There's probably more. It's probably been a long time since they've gone through Belfair, because I sat there on the corner. I did look up and I did see those 3.
Okay. And then I'm sorry to jump back real quick. The RID, are you referring to Shetland?
No. Well, the other one.
Okay.
I do got a question on the one for Shetland. We are charging the people that are already going into the road, that were on the road district and everything anyway, right?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
They had a road improvement district already, don't they?
They are not.
No,
It
no,
has
not road improvement district. I'm sorry. They have a
a maintenance agreement.
yes. Thank
Correct.
you.
Yes.
And
yes, they
so
do.
you're actually charging the ones that are on the maintenance agreement.
Correct.
We're looking at, so we're not looking to expand farther than that, or are we, or what? Because I've gotten an email and a few other notes from the same person regarding that. Kevin, do you have any input on that, to where you're thinking?
No, I'm glad you brought it up, though. I think we need to have this conversation to kind of clarify what the plan is.
Yep. Yeah, the basis of charges.
Yeah, so please bring that to us in the future or send it to us so we can have that conversation.
Yes.
And then I have one more new one. So Wheelwright is a road in before Lakeland Village as you're going up that hill.
Yep.
They have put so many homes there. I don't even know. It's a huge amount of homes have been built there. Well, with that, all these children are coming out onto that corner when the buses to pick them up at school, and during the winter it's dark and stuff. But we're talking, I've seen at least a dozen kids running around out there. It may be time to look at that light, that intersection on that and Lakeland Drive for having some type of lighting. Now I know what they're asking for, and I'm not going to ask for that. I crosswalks is not something we do. That's so rare. If there's any other type of signaling thing that we could do, that'd be appreciated to consider. But for the most part, making sure we have illumination for these kids, and perhaps something that would let them know would be appreciated.
I think Belfair School District told me that they fill up an entire bus at that location.
It's crazy. I'm telling you,
That's
I don't know how many,
surprising.
but I didn't know that. I just know that I'm going by there and seeing 10 kids as I'm driving by it, and they're running around and there's no lights. There is, it's light enough now, but just a month ago it was just crazy. So please, if we could look at doing something, it'd be nice if we had some type of flashing thing, because there literally is that many. And if what Mark's saying is correct, if they're doing a busload, you can imagine those kids just running around no matter how good parents are. Okay. That's pretty much all I had for you, except for one under roads for Mark. Just a reminder, if you already haven't, Rod LaRue, drive along. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Randy,
Go ahead.
you jogged my memory. The SWAC members would love to take a tour of our new site.
Yes.
So if we get that scheduled, that would be awesome.
Yes. Maybe it'll be better weather this time. When Kevin Kevin went down, it was dumping buckets.
Oh man. Yeah, when we went, it was very.
We had great weather for our tour, so we'll work on that.
I got to do the dad joke. I just said it to my daughter. It was raining. It was raining cats and dogs. Be careful you don't step in a poodle. Sorry, dad jokes. Okay. Do we have anything else for Loretta?
Yeah, I had one more thing. Sorry. So and this is for Loretta and the commission. So I think we should consider joining the Washington Water Utility Council. It's a fairly inexpensive membership, but it would get us in with a lot of other water providers in the state. And I think the reason I think that it might be something worth considering is as we head into our comp plan update, I think there could be some benefits to how we develop out that portion of our comp plan. And so I don't know if it feels like it's a public works thing because that's where utilities are located, but there's also some benefit, I think, to the planning side. And I think that so if the commission's okay with it, Loretta, if you could maybe bring some information back to us.
Yeah, let's just make it happen and bring us the application so we can vote to pay and become members.
Yeah. And I'll coordinate with Dave as well, because there are some public health connections as well. Yeah.
But I agree with Commissioner Schutte, and I'm sure Commissioner Trask does as well. She had a thumbs up. So let's not draw it out. Let's make it happen.
Yep.
And
okay.
we'll bring it to the commission for action.
Great. Thank you, commissioners.
Yeah. Anything else? All right. Thank you, Loretta.
You bet. Thank you.
Now we're gonna go ahead and move back into commissioner discussion. Commissioner Schutte, you got a full load here. What you got?
Yeah, and I think I got a couple of other things to add on there as well. So apologies. So I'll start with the staff recognition. So I had a conversation with Mark and Peter a couple of weeks ago. Rose Boughton in our public defender's office again received a statewide recognition for her work in the area of public defense. And a couple of years ago, I think Ron Sergi also received a similar award. So I asked them to consider us doing a recognition for both of them at a commission meeting where we could just provide them some positive reinforcement for their work. And I know it's been a particularly tough stretch, in the public defender realm and a lot of uncertainty. So I think it would be a good idea to recognize them as their association has recognized them for their work.
Commissioner, we actually have a provision that allows for that. We haven't used it in a long time. We should. I think it just takes a letter and then we bring them forward for the Green Star Award.
Yeah. So there was that one. And then the second one, I had received a phone call from Dr. Louise Kaplan from Washington State University. She's a professor in their School of Nursing. She was hiking on Mount Rose earlier this year and had an accident while she was up there. And she asked for us also to recognize members of our SWORT team and sheriff's office for their work to help transport her to a place where she could be airlifted to Harborview for treatment. And so if there's interest from the commission, I'd like to also bring that forward for Green Star recognition as well.
Yep, I think that's exactly what it's there for.
Okay, so I will work with Diane on whatever I need to do in order to formally bring that in front of the commission for consideration. But always great to hear from people out in the community who are benefiting from the hard work of our employees, and good opportunity for us to thank and recognize them for that.
Yep.
So the next thing on the list here, had a couple of meetings last week with HUD about some grant opportunities that we might be interested in considering. And so I'll start with the Preservation and Reinvestment Initiative for Community Enhancement, or the PRICE grant, which is way easier to say. This is targeting our folks that live in mobile home communities or have modular homes in the county that are in need of repairs and can't otherwise afford them. There's a income threshold and all kinds of things like that associated with it. And so this is a competitive grant that I think would be really ripe for our new grant writer when they come on board to look at pursuing for us. There is a award floor of $500,000 per applicant and an award ceiling of $75 million. I don't think we would be in the $75 million range for that. I think it would be wise to start much lower. But this is seems like a really great opportunity for us to address an issue that our housing needs assessment identified, which is the second most common type of housing we have in Mason County is mobile and modular homes. And a lot of those are more than 20 years old. And I'm sure some portion of those owners can't afford to make the needed improvements. Also would be worth considering there's a replacement component of this as well. And so repair and replace is an option for this program. So I wanted to bring that one forward. And then the other one that I wanted to bring forward is the, hang on here, trying to toggle through here so I get the right information. The Choice Neighborhood Planning Grant. So this is an opportunity to, we could look at working with the Housing Authority and the City of Shelton potentially on $500,000 planning grants in order to do neighborhood redevelopment and economic development in and around areas that have public housing. And so not real sure which two, do you know, Commissioner Netherland, which two housing units are still left under the Housing Authority?
Yes. I'm trying to think of its name offhand. It's one unit that's two at the same time. My apologies, it slips my mind. But yeah, the big one is still part of it.
Yeah. So these are, it doesn't have to just focus on that housing unit. It can focus on the whole area around where those units are located, and it helps put together sort of a neighborhood by neighborhood comprehensive housing and economic development strategy for that particular area. And so those were two that were really appealing, that it felt like we would be eligible for and could go for it as long as we put together the right partners on the application. And so the timelines for these they're due June 5th and 6th. The price grant also requires a 15-day open comment period on the plan that we would submit. And so we would have to work backwards in order to make that happen. So a bit of a tighter timeline on price, but one that I think is, would really be beneficial for the community. Think about our projects up and around the Evergreen mobile home community, Shelton Springs 101 area, how much that area itself could benefit from an opportunity like this. So I think it's worth some of the effort on that. And so just wanted to get some feedback from the commission about interest in pursuing one or both or neither.
I'd be interested in pursuing both, but I would love to focus on the price and the being who I am in the community and the different things. You have no idea how many times I get calls of people begging me to help them find a connection, especially for roofing on manufactured homes, as they're about to be out of their home and they're living in it with it already fallen in. This is huge. If we can do this, I'd love for us to focus with a laser focus on that one. I have no problem going for the other ones too, but I'm telling you, that one is huge and can have a great impact. Even if you had 500,000, we were able to provide 20, 30,000 at a pop. There's a lot of people that can stay in their home because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So please, let's do that one. Commissioner Trask?
Do you know, is it just for mobile or modular homes?
Yeah, this one is specific to that.
Okay. I see a lot of blue tarps on travel trailers, and I do know that they're made to shift anyway, so it's harder to put a roof on those. But mobile homes, I mean, usually they're pretty stationary.
Yeah, and this uses the federal definition of mobile and modular home, so I think it's pretty specific.
Okay.
Yeah. But I sent the information to Mark last week, so he might, if you have it, Mark, maybe you can forward it out to both.
Yeah, please do. I'm excited about this. This is very badly needed. It's hard for me to connect people with. I'll get this roofer to give special discounts, but you can only ask them so many times, and then when I call, they still help me, but it's harder and harder, and then some of them are not doing it at all anymore.
Yeah. The other one that I had sent over to Mark is one that is already closed. It was the removing pathways to removing obstacles to housing. So that's closed. So that just ignore that one. But the other two that I mentioned are really promising. And I agree. I think the price grant is really intriguing for us. I think that would go a long way in the community.
Yep. All right, Commissioner Trask, do you have anything?
Oh, I'm sorry. I still had two. I had two more. That's why I apologize.
You did warn us. What you got?
Yeah. So on Friday, Mark and I received a request for a letter of support from the YMCA to work on enclosing their pool and a couple of other capital improvements. We do have a partnership, as you guys know, with them for WIC and some other things. And so I didn't know if this was their deadline is because this is going to Senators Cantwell and Murray, and they have their deadlines for receiving things. And I think it's Wednesday. Obviously don't have a meeting, but wanted to have a conversation about how the commission thought we could proceed, if this was something Mark could submit a letter on our behalf because of the partnership or what.
I think we can submit a letter, have Mark submit a letter on our behalf. I'd be supportive. It's not in direct competition with us. It is with some of the other stuff that we're supporting, but everybody's got to float their own boat. So I'd be supportive and join on with you, or have Mark sign it. And if you wanted to bring it for a final action also, because sometimes they'll take it late, and maybe hit it twice, one from Mark and the other from the commission after the next meeting.
Well, maybe check with them to see if a later letter could be sent on behalf of the commission, but I think I absolutely support Mark signing on.
Okay, that was one. You said you had two.
All right, my last one, I guess, promise. So just following up on the conversation that we had last week about public defense. I know Commissioner Trasky just had a board meeting with WASAC last week. I'm sure this came up at least in part there, but I was wondering and I'll just get it out of the way. I'd be happy to draft it, but sending a letter to WASAC, encouraging them to intervene with the defense money that we've been allocating and those kinds of things, and really just try to turn the heat up on them a little bit to get some movement. But
I think we asked you to do that last week. I'm a support of turn him loose.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. At the board meeting, I told them that, what Peter told us, that their budget would increase by 350%. That doesn't count the social workers or extra staff or any of that. So, yeah, absolutely. One thing that they did say at the board meeting was that, which a lot of counties don't have, our prosecutor's office and our public defenders work well together. And there's a lot of counties out there that can't say that. So kudos to Mason County.
I'd like to throw one more thing on that. I thought about it when we had Deborah on, but I didn't want to jump the shark on anybody because we hadn't had the discussions before, just to throw it out there. But I think aside from this letter, we also send her to do whatever she can. I'd say this is probably one of my top priorities for everything, is the costs and how it's going to bring us to failure. I think every county should consider this worth fighting for. So I'd like to also ask us to put Deborah on this.
Yeah, and I did bring that up when we had her on with us this morning. But other counties are also taking this on. So I think a letter from us is a further push towards the importance of getting this taken care of. I wonder, Kevin, could you also maybe CC our legislators?
yeah, I think what I'd like to do is draft a letter this week, brief it on Monday, and then sign it at our meeting on Tuesday, and then it comes from the three of us. We send it to the association, and then we can copy our delegation on that as well.
And as for the Deborah thing, I guess what I'm asking is that we have her looking for any opportunity for us to become a part of a team. Anything she sees, she's already out there working a bunch of stuff. If she sees an opportunity to team on, to climb on a team, I really think we should.
Agree.
Okay, anything else, Kevin? All right. Commissioner Trask, do you have anything?
I just want to remind everybody that the 9th is our elected directors meeting. And if anybody needs anything, they should have it, or want to discuss anything, please send it to Mackenzie by Wednesday so that we can get that on the agenda and have the material out for people to see.
Yes, please. Mark.
Just wanted to give you guys an update. On Friday, I met with Daniel Palthorpe. He is a member of Senator Murray's office. And so we had a really good discussion Friday afternoon. I covered quite a bit of information with him in terms of issues that are facing the county. Specifically talked to him in depth about indigent defense standards that are coming out. And he said that's something that he'd kind of heard a little bit about, but I actually just received an email from him this morning at 10:46 saying he was actually at a different county, and they brought this issue up also. So definitely getting in front of our congressional delegation and helping them understand what's going on back here at home. Pretty important, and it's going to impact the entire state.
Okay. Anything else? Anything for calendars?
I do have a meeting tomorrow morning out at Shorecrest. So I think that's the only change in my calendar.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing new, I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
If we move in second, we adjourn. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned. Talk to you later. Great job, guys. Proud to serve with you. Great job.
Sure.
Bye.